Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today is my 26th Q&A. So today is a brand new episode of my question and answer series where I take your guys' questions that you asked me in my previous video and answer them here today. So of course, if you want to be in my next Q&A episode, be sure and leave those questions in the comments down below. First question, when's your next Q&A? Am I the only one who's really confused about why somebody would leave this kind of question on a Q&A video? Like, I feel like by the time that you get your question answered, you're already going to know the answer. For next Q&A, don't move your arms around uselessly. Don't worry, I won't have any useless arm movement in this episode. Everything will all be very planned out for a very specific reason. Where can I find your PS Mains WCA profile, how many competitions you've been to, and your real name? That's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked. Just go to my channel, click on the About page in the corner, and you can find the answer to all of those questions, plus a lot more, all in one place. Can you take all of your 3x3s apart? Yes. I think the question that this person was actually trying to ask is, will you take all your 3x3s apart right now? And the answer to that, of course, is no. Why would I do that? Why do you upload so far apart? Well, the thing is, I've actually made and uploaded at least one cubing video every single week for nearly 5 years now, so I would say that your standard of far apart is pretty extreme. I don't know of very many other cubing channels who have even gotten near to that, but if you want to know why it takes me so long to make videos, it's just because it takes a lot of time. It takes me like 5 hours to make and edit a video, and I just don't have that much time. Can you not answer this? No. Can you take apart the cube that the next question is about? Yes, I will, but I don't want to spoil the answer to the next question right away, so I'll come back to this in a minute. What event are you fastest at? Well, you didn't specify WCA events or anything, so I'm assuming I can just choose whatever puzzle I want. I am fastest at the 1x1x2. Alright, back to the whole taking apart the cube the next question is about thing. I'm going to take apart this 1x1x2. Wow. Would you do 1,000 VCube 6 solves for $5,000? For reference, this is what a VCube 6 feels like. So basically you're being paid $5 per solve. Each of those is going to take at least like 5 minutes. So you're going to have to put in like over 80 hours total, but you're being paid like $60 per hour. So I guess in the end that probably would be worth it for that kind of pay. How efficiently can your cubes Rubiks? Well, the thing is, my cubes actually can't Rubiks, as in RUBIX. They can only Rubiks, as in RUBIKS, and they can do so pretty efficiently. Do you think they'll make a 14x14? Well, with all the recent advancement in big cube hardware, like having a cheap 8x8 and 9x9 out now, I think they will eventually get up to a 14x14. The really interesting thing, though, is they did actually make a Shengxiao 12x12, which is a new cube that we haven't had for a really long time. We've got an 11x11 and a 13x13, but never a 12x12, so I think we are going to start filling in the gaps pretty soon. For how long do you cube a day? Well, if you take like a typical day, like the median number of hours, the answer would be 0. I just don't really spend much time speed cubing. You can probably find me practicing maybe half an hour or so, once every week or so on average, but most of the time that I spend cubing, I spend making videos. What was the first event you competed in? So back at my first ever official competition, US Nationals 2014, back before there were qualifying times or anything like that, my first event I had was 2x2, and actually during my average I DNF'd one of my solves because I set it down without doing an algorithm like this. And on one of my other solves, one of the caps on one of the pieces flew off, and I had to go and grab it, stick it back on, and then totally resolve the cube, so my average ended up being like 20 seconds. Solve the cube that's currently closest to you. Hey look, a 1x1x2. Definitely closer to me than this 9x9. Let's go ahead and solve it. 3, 2, 1, and done. Do you think 2x2 blind and multi-blind should be WCA events? Well, the thing is, 2x2 blindfolded, just basically solving this cube with a blindfold on, I don't think would make for a very exciting WCA event. It would just be so short and very similar to what people already do in 2x2. Multi-blind with a 2x2 could be pretty interesting, although it would require a lot of cubes and you'd have to make the time limit pretty short. So I don't think those events would work pretty well, but they are interesting to at least think about. Hold the 3x3 and try doing a sledgehammer like it's a skube. So for reference, this is what a sledgehammer looks like on a skube. 3, 2, 1, and it didn't do anything. Do you think people can still get really good times using no lube or magnets on a budget cube? Yes, I do think that people care way too much about the cube that they're using and not enough about actually practicing and putting in the effort to get faster. I think the best speed cuber in the world using the best cube in the world would only be like a second faster than if they were using like a decent budget cube. So yeah, just put in the effort and you'll get faster. Obviously on bigger cubes the margin gets bigger of how much using a better cube improves you, but overall as long as you have a decent cube it doesn't really matter. Show your cat and solve your cat. Here's my cat right here. I'm going to solve her. 3, 2, 1, go. That was my cat PB right there. Has your kitty cat gotten better at 1x1? Yeah, she has gotten quite a bit faster. Here's the 1x1 right here. 3, 2, 1, go. She solved it. Keep your cat in front of the camera to the end of the video. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'll try. And she's gone already. What is the fastest time you've ever witnessed a 3x3 being solved in? So after being to quite a few decently big competitions like US Nationals for many years, I've seen quite a few decently fast 3x3 solves like in the 5-second range from people like Max and Felix. I think there have been a few like sub 5 solves at competitions that I've been to, but I wasn't actually watching them, so probably somewhere around like 5 seconds. Tim F asks, which one of your friends is best at solving a 3x3? Well, if you go back to my videos like how many 3x3s can I solve while my friend solves a 3x3, it's definitely not someone named Tim F. What lighting do you use? Well, this lighting of course. To be honest, I don't really know the brand name or anything, just look up softboxes for photography, but it works pretty well. And also, where do you get the Soundproof mats from? So it's called acoustic foam, it's super generic, there's a million brands of it. Again, literally just look it up. I think I had the first result off Amazon. It doesn't really do a whole lot to reduce sound, but it does look pretty cool in the background. Take apart your favorite Rubik's Cube that you have. You know, I'm really feeling my favorite Rubik's Cube today is this 1x1x2. Wow. What is the easiest cube that you have that you can't solve? So I know how to solve almost every single cube in my collection, but there definitely are a few exceptions. The first thing that comes to mind is the curvy copter, because I know how to solve pretty much all of it, but there are a few algorithms for the corners at the end that I just haven't ever bothered learning. Also things like the Pyraminx crystal, it's very easy to solve except for the last few pieces. I just don't know how to do those ones. I imagine things like the 2x4x4 would be pretty easy to learn too, but I've just never got around to learning them. How do you get faster? Practice. Were you scared tensioning your first speed cube because you might ruin it? Well, the thing is, most of the first speed cubes that I had back in the day, like Diane cubes, actually came as DIY cubes, so you would get them in the mail as a big pile of pieces, and you had to put them together yourself and screw in all the screws and everything like that. So I obviously wasn't afraid to tension it because I had put the cube together myself. If you could compete in only 2 events other than 3x3 and Scube, which ones would you choose? So these are definitely my 2 favorite events. After this, I'd probably choose 4x4 because it's kind of a fun extension, a bigger cube from 3x3. After that, I'm not really sure. I'm not really that into Pyraminx anymore. Maybe something interesting like 3x3 blindfolded I'd choose just so I could get good at that. But I'm not really sure. Is it considered a DNF if you solve a 4x4 with the color scheme wrong? Well, first off, I just want to say it doesn't matter what color scheme you have in your cube. You can do something crazy with the stickers. The only definition of solved is that you have one solid color per face. The thing is, if you can get a 4x4 into a different color scheme just by turning the sides and solving it wrong, then you're doing something pretty amazing. The reason that people tell you to make sure you have the color scheme correct while you're doing the centers on a 4x4 is because it's literally impossible if you don't have the color scheme correct. Why do you not know COLL or OLLCP? You could be faster. Because learning COLL or OLLCP take a lot of time, and that's something I don't have a lot of. Are you sponsored by any cube stores? Well, yes, I kind of am if you want to call it a sponsorship. The Cubicle regularly sends me over some of their new products for me to test out on my channel, like these Angstrom cubes recently. Basically, every single video that the Cubicle sends me cubes over, I'll explicitly state it near the beginning of the video. I'll say that the Cubicle sent me over this package. But yeah, they give me lots of cool cubes to review on my channel. That's pretty much where I get most of my cubes nowadays. Lube one of your 3x3s with all the lube you have. Alright, challenge accepted. I got a sacrificial 3x3 right here. Doesn't turn that great. I think it needs some lubrication, so let's go ahead and open up some pieces here. First off, we have some weight 2 lube from the Cubicle, just silicone lube. Put that on in there, plenty of it. Got some weight 4 from the Cubicle, put that in as well, right on top. We have Lubical Black. This is meant for the hardware of the cube, but I think it can go in the pieces too. We have this lube, which is just some random generic stuff. Lubical Silk, drop a few drops of that in there. There we go. DNM 37, this stuff makes it pretty fast. I need some of that. We have Lubical 1, that can go in just like that, all in there. We have some Maru Lube, that can go in. And some of the Cubicle's new Mystic plant-based lube. Alright, look at that. That's every type of lubricant that I own in one cube. So let's put it back together and see how it performs. It's already coming out the sides of the cube right here. So put that in. Ooh, it's very, very smooth. We have lots of different types of lubricants that are meant for smoothness. It's getting all over my hands. Oh, the cube is slimy from the outside. It definitely turns a little bit better than it did before. A little bit too gummy though. There's a lot of lubricant in there and my hands are just sliding off of it because it's everywhere on the outside. Ugh, it's disgusting. When you're out in public, do you meet people who watch your channel? Yeah, that has actually happened to me a surprising handful of times at like school or other public places. People just kind of walk up to me who know me from their YouTube channel and ask if it's me from Z3 Cubing. And yeah, it's just super weird, but it has happened a decent number of times. Is it just me or does he look and sound like a 17-year-old? Not trying to offend him, just curious. I want to know what you mean about like not trying to offend him. Like, do you think I'm actually way older than 17? And you think I look like I'm 17? Or like, I don't understand because I am actually 17 years old. How long did it take for you to learn full cfop? Well, in terms of like actual days in a row actively spent learning algorithms and things like that, it probably only took me like a month or two. But in terms of from the time that I started cubing to the time that I finished learning OLL and PLL, it probably took me like 5 years. Eat the closest thing to you. Go! Well, you never actually specified that it had to be a food item, so I think the closest thing to me right now is this lubricant. But I think on the Cubicle's website they said not to ingest it, so I'm not going to do that. Anyway, I think in terms of food, oh yeah, I do have, reach over here, some Easter-themed M&Ms. There's only a few left in here, only 2, so you can eat those. Have you ever been outside of the US? Yes, I did go to Ireland quite a few years ago. I made a video of myself solving Rubik's Cube in quite a few cool places there. You can go ahead and check that out. I'll link it up in the corner. I also went to Canada once for like 10 minutes. I think it was legal. Not really sure. Is it free to compete in a WCA event? I don't think I've ever seen a cubing competition that was free. Most of them are relatively inexpensive though, only like $20. But keep in mind that you do have to pay money to book the venue and get supplies and rent the timers. All that kind of stuff is expensive, so you should expect to have to pay at least a little bit. Some of the bigger competitions are pretty expensive, like Nationals this year is like $120. But most of the time you should have to pay just a little fee to get in. Why didn't you make a cube collection video for 2019, and will you make one? So at the end of last year, when I normally release my big cube collection video for the year, I explained in the comments of a few of my videos why I wasn't going to be making a 2019 cube collection video. Basically, my 2018 video was still really popular. It still is really popular, still getting a ton of views. It's really long. It takes a really long time to make, like 10 hours plus just to make that one video, like 5 hours of straight talking. It's just super exhausting, takes a lot of effort to set up and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to be making one this year, but near the end of this year and beginning of next year, 2020, I definitely will make a new collection video. Have you ever solved the square one? Yes. And was it sub 5? I mean, sub 5 minutes, yeah. Why exactly are higher order n by n by n puzzles so expensive? So I'm assuming you're talking about things like the 13 by 13 and higher, which are just hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you want to buy. But even once you get to the point of something like a 9 by 9, this one's actually relatively cheap, you still have like a couple of dozen unique types of pieces that you have to design and have a custom mold for each individual one, and you have to have them in a bunch of different colors, and then you have to assemble hundreds of pieces all together. So you're paying for the individual parts that it takes to make the molds, to make the pieces, all those like dozens of unique different types of pieces, as well as the labor to actually put together all the hundreds of pieces together into a 13 by 13 or 17 by 17, something like that. So that's why it just gets crazy expensive so quickly. How many more Q&As will you make? Probably at least 5. Why 5? Because it's the most I can fit on my fingers, I don't know. Can you take apart a 3x3 in the 26th Q&A and assemble it in the 27th? Well, yes, this is the disgusting slimy 3x3 that I just lubed with all the different types of lubes. So let's go ahead and take it apart. Oh my gosh. The inside of this thing is disgusting. Ugh. Just get this apart. It's super tight, but there we go. And now it is totally disassembled. So here is the core of this 3x3. I'll be assembling it in the next episode. Speaking of next episode, that was the last question. So if you didn't have your question answered this time, or if you want to ask a new one, be sure and leave those in the comment section down below, and I'll get to as many of those as possible. Anyway, right now I've been recording for 3.5 hours, so if you've been wondering why I've been putting off making this episode for so long, that is why. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I'm gonna go to sleep or something now. I'll see you guys next time.